So welcome back, everybody. Today we are doing something a little bit different. We are here with Josh and Heidi. Go ahead and say hello, guys.
Hello, everybody.
So they have a farm and a kind of living a homesteading life out here in Washington State. And we're going to go over their garden that they have here today. What's the square footage of your, or the dimensions of your garden?
It's roughly 20 by 50.
20 by 50. So a fairly large garden, especially for the western side of the state where we get a lot of rain. So we're going to kind of dive in, and they're just going to talk, and we'll ask some questions at the end. But you're basically just going to see them today. So you are live.
Oh,
so
are we going right now? Okay, good.
Whenever you guys want to start.
All right.
He'll cut that out. We should probably pause. So. This garden is 40 plus years old, right around 42, 43. We weren't exactly sure exactly the year it was put in. But I blame its success, if you want it, for lack of a better word, on the chicken manure that we use in there. So at least every few years it's good to put the chicken manure in there and till it in, and then let it sit for a couple weeks so it doesn't burn your seeds, because chicken manure is quite hot. And then voila, then you get all this beautiful stuff that's yummy, yummy, yummy. We use a drip water irrigation system. This is something new that we've decided to go to this year, and I think we have a little bit more control over it that way. And the great thing about that is that with the water just going next to the plants, you're not watering the entire garden and all your weeds and stuff. So it's a work in progress, that's for sure. Yeah. So right now we have some tomatoes and peppers up front here, and then we have gotten dwarf kale in the next row. Our third row in is actually supposed to be eggplant, but they mismarked their packages, which happens every once in a while. You get a surprise plant, and we ended up actually planting tomatillos, not eggplant. So we have a grand row of tomatillos. We are doing bok choy this year, which has been one of the most successful and really, really easy to plant and cut and everything and harvest. We've got cabbages and leeks and kohlrabi. And then we've got our carrots, beets, leaf lettuce. We have a lettuce mix called mescaline, and it's just a variety of different colored and different types of leaf lettuce. It's really, really good in salads and on your sandwiches and things like that.
Carrots, we have a few Walla Wallas on the end.
And then we have Swiss chard for our friends, because we don't eat that. So, and then on the far end is all of our squash. So we have watermelon, 2 different types of cantaloupes going on, butternut, acorn, and then our beans are down there. But this was a pretty hard year in the beginning of rain, so our beans got beat up pretty good, which happens a lot. Our peas weren't as successful this year at all due to the rain in the beginning, and so we just chose not to keep fighting with that. So, in the Pacific Northwest, it's a hit and miss. So you've got so much rain, and if you plant too early, you're going to drown your plants. The birds will get some of the seed. So sometimes we have seeds that pop up in other places in the garden because they've been placed by the birds and stuff like that. So As you see, we have a big fence around the garden to keep the deer out. We try to use some nets on some of our plants to keep the birds out, but it's a constant fight with nature. I mean, nature has its way of doing stuff too, so. Yeah, then we have our zucchini and crookneck over here in the arbor area. We were going to try something new this year with the arbor and decided that next year that's where we would do that's where we decided next year we would do peas and beans up this arbor next year. So in our garden we utilize nature, so we leave a lot of the weeds in. So we leave a lot of the weeds in that flower because it brings the bees in, and so our fruit gets pollinated naturally and it's always successful. Also, it helps hold some of the moisture in. So at the end of the garden, we've lost water pressure and we actually haven't watered in 3 days, and it is still very much alive and green and very damp underneath the soil. So it helps to use what you have sometimes. So today we're harvesting some beets, and the great thing about these is when you plant them, you have a lot of seeds in your row. And as they grow, they're too tight in there, and beets need some good space, a few inches between them, so they have enough room to grow. And you want to pull them before they get baseball size, otherwise they're a little harder. Some people let them grow large, and if you prefer that, that's great, but I don't. So as the greens are growing, and what we do is we call it thinning, and some of these absolutely will not grow the beet because they're too close. And so you get the ends just like this and they won't develop. But the green is excellent, and so you start out eating the greens as you're growing, and then the bigger that they get and the more thinning that you've done gives you your space where you start ending up getting some baby beets, and those are my favorite when they're about this big. So really there's quite a few vegetables that grow like this, and you can use them from the time that they're microgreen size all the way up to development. So you'll see a bunch of these in this garden, these whirligiggers, and the reason why we use so many is when we first plant the rows, we try to keep the birds away from picking our seed, and then the vibration in the ground also chases the moles away, and so as you can tell, there is no hilling in this garden unless we do it.
So this is your family's farm, right?
Yeah.
Did you do anything before? Any sort of farming or gardening beforehand?
Not a lot. I mean, I took a couple classes like in high school, horticulture and things like that. It's always in landscaping. It's always kind of been an interest, but I never really pursued it. So
Other than living on a massive Forest Service tree farm most of his life. Yeah.
I've never lived in town or had that kind of life. It's always been, outside of town, a farm or land, so familiar with it in that aspect. But
yeah, this farm, so this is a 160-acre homestead that goes from the house next door to us all the way down to the bottom of the hill as you started to come up there, and then over both of these ridges. And we have five parts of our family still live here, so it's all aunts and uncles and then my parents. And it was friends of the family before that, and my grandparents traded. They lived in town and they traded their town place for this place, and the people were done raising their family here, so they went into town. And
so one other question I do have for you guys is, is this just a hobby that you guys enjoy, or are you doing it with the intent of like, we want to try and grow our own food and live as holistically as possible?
So this is, we don't buy what's growing in this garden is what we stop buying in the stores.
at least for most of
it. A lot of times we'll do our own canning, own pressing of the apples, and that's, cider throughout the year. We used to do a lot more, but no, this is our food. I mean, we will save the carrots over the winter time. So we plank them, which is basically just what it says. We put a plank over the carrots during the winter time to keep them from freezing, and then we just move the plank when we want to come pull the roots and then put it back over. If you don't have a root cellar, that's a really good way to keep root vegetables, is doing it that way.
Quite a while.
Yeah, they last a long time.
Awesome.
If we had like a massive abundance of tons and tons and tons of rain, that can be a problem, which is why it's really good to have a root cellar if you have the place to do that, for sure. So, and we have a root cellar, some things that we'll move in there, apples, potatoes, things like that keep a little bit longer. But carrots just seem to do well in the ground if the weather cooperates with us and we get a real winter. So, yeah. But yeah, this is our livelihood. This is how we survive during in the fall, or in the summer and then the fall, whatever we're harvesting in the fall. And so it saves a lot of money.
We have more variety of things this year. The last 4 years ago was the last time we had a garden. But we had broccoli, cauliflower, but we did like the long rows. So they were going the opposite direction.
Yeah, we switch off some years. It kind of depends on what we want an abundance of to eat that
Typically
summer
we do
fall.
corn, or we usually always do corn, except for the last couple we haven't really.
Yeah.
We don't eat as much of it, and I mean it's cheap in the store, honestly.
Yeah.
And if you don't plant a lot of corn, they tend to fall over easier if you don't have a lot of rows of them to buffer the wind and stuff. But
And then we also, we go to other farmers too. So if we're not growing, we're not really going to grow beans and peas a lot this year. So we'll go to someone else's farm for that. And then like beans, there are some things that are pretty cheap in the stores, so we don't worry too much about that. But we like to try to keep the beans and stuff canned. And then if we buy like a half a beef, can some of that to make stews and throughout the winter and stuff. So in the wintertime, it gets a little bit tougher out here.
She typically makes apple butter and applesauce.
Yeah.
And a lot of that. So.
Yeah, anything that we can make out of whatever's growing out here, we'll do it, can it, store it, and then survive on it. So, yeah, out here our water is out of a spring, so we're still grandfathered in. We don't have a well. It goes into a pump system. We do a UV system, filtration system on it, just to make sure we don't have any bacteria in it, because it is coming directly out of the ground. But it is probably the best water in this county, if not the state. So, but and then we do all of our own firewood out here. That's our only heat source. So the timber is really important for us too. So, yeah.
So just very much living the homesteading
as much as
life.
we can. We would like to go deeper into it.
Obviously we could pursue it further.
Yeah.
We would like to. course, some of that, you know, takes money as far as like solar system stuff.
Yeah. We do have a waterway that's next to us that we've considered doing water wheel kind of into the whole battery type thing and doing that. But I think that might be something that we might go to. So we try to survive and do the bare minimum that we, you know, need out of the world. So we try to take care of ourselves as much as possible.
That's awesome. So that is all from us here at PNW Strong. We are here at Firewood Farm and had a great time with Josh and Heidi. They showed us their garden and kind of talked about their homesteading lifestyle that they're living here. So if you guys do need anything tactical or firearms related, be sure to check out 3 Aces LLC. All their links will be in the description down below. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Those links will also be in the description down below. And as usual, guys, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, do all those things. Turn on notifications so you know when our next videos come out. Be sure to respect, encourage, teach, and protect. Have a good one.